everybody. Hi, Mary, Christine, Libby. Nice to see you. Hope you guys are good. Very strange day today. I don't know if it's sort of defaulted to autumn. Freezing. Yeah, I know. I've got an apron on. I'm running out of clothes. You'd think with all this spare time on my hands, I'd be a bit more organized in the house, but it seems to be going to the pack. So I have a pile of washing and a pile of ironing, nothing of which I've dealt with. So never mind. Just looking out at the river. It's looking a bit gloomy, but the irises are coming up, so we'll be able to paint those next week. Yeah, I know. It's freezing. It's freezing. Went for a bike ride early morning. There wasn't any mist, so I didn't really take that many photos. But yeah, it was chilly. But it was nice to get out before the traffic, because the roads are a little busier. Yeah, good morning. Yeah, sorry, it's gosh, yeah, 9 a.m. in Wisconsin. That's Central Time then? I guess, maybe. Lovely. It's really good, actually. Have any of you been out or been trying the wildflowers in cold wax? I just wondered, or even in watercolors, but using techniques that we've been doing, because we're going to be applying a lot of those techniques that we've been doing in the watercolor paintings and the ink paintings today in the cold wax painting. So I think, today's demo really is when it all comes together. Hi, Anna. Oh, I hope you're good. You've been having a bit of a rough time, but nice to see you. Cape Cod. Oh, I'd love to go to Cape Cod. And sunny in Switzerland. Yeah, I've got lots of people that have messaged me from Switzerland today, and yeah, they're all out there walking. So yeah, so Mary's in Central Time, Lorraine's in Ireland, Christine's in Switzerland, Anna's in Cape Cod, and I'm in Wiltshire. So there we are. Anyway, lovely to have you here in the studio, and also that you're here enjoying cold wax. Hi, Pam. Nice to see you. That you're trying cold wax, and I noticed that Jackie Blackman is the owner of Zest-it, or she makes Zest-it products, and so anything you want to ask about Zest-it, you can post them here, and Jackie will reply to them. I noticed she'd replied to some things Katerina had asked about the marble dust yesterday. And so that's quite good, and the difference between marble and slate, she'll be able to tell you exactly the difference between the substances and how the particles are, because there is a difference between marble dust, limestone, and pumice. They're all different. They all react different. So yeah, pumice is a volcanic a product of volcanoes, and it's quite sharp, pumice. But then marble is too. They act differently. I think the reason I like slate is one, because of the soft grey colour. Hi, Sarah. Hi, Danielle. The reason I like the slate dust is the slight grey colour that it has, and I find that really nice to work on. It's just very pleasant. You can see it. You can see where you've put it down. Anyway, our painting is coming on well. It probably looks a bit bloody at this stage, but what we have is all the different layers coming through like so, and you can see the dark layers that I've scraped into, and I've added a little bit more blue in the sky just to give it some colour depth. So I felt it was getting just a little too grey, and it'll help me pitch the flowers that I'm going to be placing now. Or, well, it's not like I'm painting flowers, but I just want the impression of walking into a wildflower meadow. I really want the sensation of the grass and the pollens. Too early for wildflowers. Still on daffodils, Anne. And sorry, gosh, oh my goodness me. We've already got leaves. It's almost autumn here already. So, you know, I think you're thinking about a little bit about the, hi, Jean. Nice to see you. You know, I think the thing is, as much as I don't paint things, that's not really what I'm about. I want to paint sensations, and I want to paint feelings. I want to paint experiences, and so the wildflowers are for me just a conduit for that sense of color, the sense of life in the landscape. That's really what it's about. If you took a field of wildflowers, you know, just imagine it was like an orchestra, right? So with the orchestra, you know, you've got your string section and your woodwind section, and you've got your brass players and you've got your percussion players, you know. So just imagine that you're looking at a field like that, and that it's like an orchestral symphony. You know, you can't have, you know, the triangle and the timpani bashing away, you know, at every single second, but they are, you know, when they come in, you know, it's quite magic, you know, when some of those instruments come in, because they can add that extra touch, that little bit of brilliance. And it's a bit like seeing something like yellow in a field of green. You know, it's much more powerful sometimes than seeing a whole field of yellow, which becomes a little bit overwhelming. So let's go with that feeling that we're in the wildflower meadows, and that we are thinking about how I've added a glaze here of this dark green, so that's what's looking a little shiny there. I'm just seeing if I can get lighting a bit better. Let me see. It may or may not help. That green there is just a glaze. I'll go into making those things as well. So, you know, it'd be lovely if thinking about next week, and you know where we're going with this, that maybe I'll do a Zoom tutorial on painting wildflowers. So I'll start with a scene, a picture of some sort, and go through the whole process. And I might do that as a Zoom demonstration, so that we can maybe have, you know, have a real close look at what's happening, and then maybe doing a series on that, and you can then paint along with me. So, you know, I'm just thinking about that at the moment, and you know, how to structure that. So I'll keep you posted. So as I say, I've added a slight darker blue at the top here, just to give it some weight. We've got this beautiful mid-tone blue that we added in yesterday. We added that in, and we've kept down here, and I can see that on the camera, but we've kept the dark values here, which is great. This is our original painting. Here and here is our original paintings. So that's quite nice to still have some of that exposed. So our next stage really is to get some greens into here first. And so it looks messy for a start, and then we'll just make it so this is a green just mixed up with cold wax. And I'm using a roller for this because I want to think compositionally how you might like that. This is just standing up so I can get that on there. So it's got nice juicy paint. It's that real spring green colour. if there's no paint coming up, then, you know, I would need to mix more paint for that. And I'm going to use my squeegee, and I'm going to cut into that green now. I usually have a cloth here, because, you know, that's really nice. But let's just cut into some of that underpainting that we have. And, you know, get right down to that dark layer. I'll use the scratchy tool as well, but I'll just get into this a bit first. So I've just brought everything up quite high here. As I said, this was my falling off my bike experience, where I actually was right in the grass. Really couldn't see anything else except the wildflowers. So it gives us a lot of space to work with different techniques to build that up. So I keep working like that, just scoring into that. And, you know, we could probably get a palette knife actually and just come in, you see, and just so we're now revealing that darker background underneath. So I use different ways of getting in there. Palette knife is one, and I like it, but I don't want, you know, I don't want too many. And we've also got our scratchy tool if you want a finer line. And that's quite nice at the top to bring some finer lines in there and the heavier lines down the bottom. So you vary the weight of your lines as you're doing that. Some places, you know, we're going to need some stems of some plants have got stronger stems, you know, like the what's it called, the red campion, and it has a sort of a dark purpley red stem. So, you know, we might want a few places where we think, oh yes, I could place a red campion there. So, you know, those ones I might want to come out a little bit broader, you know, and change the angles of what you do as well. So sort of imagine, you know, imaginary paths through the grass. You know, maybe someone's walked through there at some stage. You know, that's quite nice to have different things going on as well. If it gets clogged up, just come in again with the green over the top. Okay, and you can bring that texture back in. Then you can still come back in if you want and scratch. So that's always going to be there. That darker layer has dried because it had the marble dust on it. So, you know, we're just really just scratching into something that's there. If that wasn't there, you wouldn't be able to do it. So it's good to build these things up in a kind of systematic way. And might just cover that a little. It's looking a little too obvious. The thing is just to keep it looking. I've kept some darks again at those corners in particular. I'm now going to get some pale blue. So this is the blue we had before, which was a mixture of the ice blue, and just going to come down into here. I'm just using the same colours as yesterday, so I'm not introducing new colours into the colour palette. So this sort of feels a bit like the light coming across the field. So think of a directional flow of your light. So in this case, it's coming in from this way. So that light is hitting that wildflower meadow, and coming across, and it's shaded and darker there. So what I do is I wipe the roller. I'm using a paper towel for this because I don't really want any moisture on the roller. Clean off as much of the white as possible. And I will take off any excess paint that I've just put down. I can take off there, like so. It's very hard to keep these rollers clean, isn't it? So I'll turn it round your way so you can see. That's what it's looking like. Okay, right, that roller's clean because I need to come in now and re-roll that dark blue into the light blue from the top to the bottom. So I'm going to roll that way. And then I'm all set to put the flowers on. I just wanted to show you how the background setup for what we're doing is so important. You know, rather than just launching into just painting the flowers, I really spend a long time with the environment, really, that I'm going to be placing those flowers. So now I'm coming down with the roller this way, adding that blue. So it comes down into the painting a little more. You can see where all the scratch marks are here, that it has met. You can see the little indentations, and these lines are coming through. So now I've got a nice base at the top there. Now we get rid of the roller marks in the middle there. Again, clean the roller as much as possible anyway. And what it starts to do is it starts to get a feeling of light across the meadow, which you know, they sort of get those little bands of mist early morning. It's just stunning, and I like to capture that if I can. So I've cleaned this roller again. I'm going to go in with that lighter bluey green. Put that back in there. Again, like a sheet of mist. The wiping thing becomes a bit annoying. If you had more rollers, I guess you could treat yourself to not having to do that all the time. I've got lots of rollers, but they're all dirty, so it's my own fault. Sorry about these little bits. paper in a minute. Right, that's looking absolutely beautiful in here. So beautifully blended. So I just need to soften this where the light is hitting. There, so that's just softened, and it's a beautiful sort of background now to layer, you know, to layer wildflowers on top of that. In fact, in a funny sort of a way, I'm happy with it just now like this. I could live with that. I just think that's, you know, just so soft and gentle, and speaks of the meadow without all the colour. But anyway, we're doing colour, so let's do that. Going to clean these rollers, and I'm going to get rid of these dirty cloths. I'll show you where I've got to so you can see it properly. I'm going to raise you up just a tad. There we go. Oh, hi. Oh, hello, Angus. Nice to see you. Hi, David. How's the mumbles? Okay. A little bit different to Port Talbot anyway. So you can see the it's almost like a burnishing that goes on to really push the color into the paper here, or the multimedia board. And you know, I've really pushed all that pigment and paint into that marble dust, so it gets this very deep, very rich color, and also the scratching through to the underneath layers. All right, so that's really the setup. So the first two lessons we've had on this subject were really to set this board up to do what we're going to do now with the pigments and with the color. So I usually just have a little change around here. So I've thrown out the rags, and I'm going to be using a new palette paper because, you know, this just all gets all very messy and confusing. And, you know, our colors were quite limited really on the wildflower meadow, because we just had red campion, dandelion. We had a little bit of what did we have? We had bluebells and a little bit of the vetch, the sort of purpley blue vetch, which we didn't have very much of. It was very small, but I did pick a couple of dandelions. That's the kind of color we're looking at. And you know, just looking at them too at different stages of their lives, you know, they're not always that, are they? You know, they can be that, and they can be the white fluffy things, which I didn't bring into the studio because you know what they are. So, you know, painting things in their different stages is also, you know, quite authentic, rather than always painting the pretty ones. Just paint the in-between ones as well. It just looks more authentic. So hi Helene, nice to see you. Nice that you could make it. So I've got my little friends there, my little dandelions, and they're all looking a bit kind of shriveled up. That's good, I like that. So how am I going to paint these dandelions? So thinking back to different techniques that we used right at the beginning with the dandelion prints and things that we made, I've made a little stencil. Okay, so I've made a stencil which I can use for either various stages of the dandelions, or your vetch is going to be pink. Oh, wow, okay. You know, you can get yellow vetch as well, by the way, Georgina. It doesn't have to be purple. These shapes are going to be quite useful for creating some of these dandelion shapes on. So let's get on with that color, and let's get on with the pigments. I'm using Pan Pastel. You can't even see what these are because they're so dirty. All right, and it's back to front, so it's hopeless. Pan Pastel. I won't hold it vertically because there's a lot of powder in there. But these things are great. Jackson's Art, you can buy them from. So I've just got basic colours. I've just got the yellow, and I've got a magenta one here as well, which I use this a lot. And sometimes I have an orange, but I'm not using orange today. But I'll use the yellow and the pink mainly. I also have a blue, which is very, very nice. Bit of an ultramarine blue. So those are the sort of powder pigments. We're just going to stick with something quite basic till we get the hang of it. Hi, Aileen. That's how we're going to add that on top. And we will use, in this case, we will use the cold wax medium as a binder. So that's what's really going to hold the pigment on the page. So I'll get some out. And that's so that's the binder that we need. And yeah, let's just try and see what what we want here composition wise, and how that's going to bring you back down again. Sorry guys. And how that's going to work. Right. Composition wise, I have got this very loose tree here. So, I might start with just using a little yellow. I am off on the side there with the colours, but just get some yellow going there, just to be sort of the base of. I've just added a tiny touch of blue into the yellow, so it's a slightly greeny yellow. It just gives me a little bit of a, so that's it there. Just it gives me a little bit of room to work with. If I need to go brighter, I've got some option of that. It's dropping off. So when we think about the heights of things, the fluffy dandelions perhaps might be a little higher in this, and as you get lower you might have the buttercup, and you'll have the big dandelion flowers perhaps down here. It might be best to sort of start with the buttercup, I think, because they just hide, they just kind of hide in the bottom. I'll just get some more yellow out. Sorry, never know how much of this stuff you need. Okay, so I've actually changed my yellow. I've got Yellow Lake, Michael Harding's Yellow Lake there. I just needed something a little brighter for this. So the buttercup is only just a few things, so I'll just pop them in. They tend to, just using the side of my palette knife, they just pop up here and there. Not too worried about. I just need to make sure that they're placed in an artistic manner, not. So it's nice to paint things in groups, if one's there, there might be sort of a little group of them. That's lovely if it's nice, thick, juicy paint. That also is nice. So I've kind of kept that species a little down at that level. And then, of course, we're going to have big dandelions in here as well. So we don't need to overdo it just yet. Let's do one of the big dandelions then. So, here's one. Okay. And what I'm going to do is just going to paint the guy. This is a bit messy. You have to wear gloves for this, guys. So, just paint this fella here like this. And perhaps on a spare piece of paper first, take a print. So that's got rid of any excess wax. I'll keep that because that's my little thing. So now I might make a print of that dandelion, maybe down here. Is that in view? Yeah. Dip them into the paint. Might have a couple. That's a lesser one, which is good. You don't want them all the same. They won't be all the same. It's quite good, really. But what it's just doing is it's just giving me some form to play with. And it's quite nice to see, you know, what colour the stems are too, actually. So they have a little bit of pinkiness to the stem. So, you know, that I'll add another one up here, I think. You can see. I mean, I'll add more paint onto these, but what this is doing is it's just giving me something. It's just giving me something to start with. And because the form is accurate, I can add extra things later. Now this one is a kind of shriveled up one. I might need a tiny touch of orange. So I'm using a Williamsburg orange, but I've got a Jackson's orange, but it's really drips everywhere. So I prefer this Williamsburg one. It's now a Golden Company product. And, you know, you can see really that that's focused very much at the top. So, this one might be, you know, when dandelions are out, they're just out, aren't they? They're everywhere at the moment. They are just the star of the show. And bees love them, so we know we love them too. I love adding this orange against the yellow. I just find that really exciting. You know, there might be something here. Paint over that buttercup. So I'm using these things quite bold, really. I get quite bold as I go on. I start softly and then I get really excited. I see the colour coming down. I think, oh yeah, lots of these guys everywhere. Yeah, I'm trying to sort of let the colours of the green really come through from underneath. I'm not trying to obliterate. I'm not sort of painting so heavily that I'm losing what's underneath. So I'm just really trying to lay that quite gently on, and sometimes I'll even take the roller and you know, give it just a soft roll, because I don't want to be too heavy-handed. With the squeegee can squash things completely. So say I wanted to just spread that a little, you know, I'll just take that roller like so. I'll roll some of the colours across there. So I find the palette knife for this quite useful. Now, once we've got some of that colour and wax down, we can add pigment onto that as well. So this area here, where there's a bit of nondescript stuff, you know, I can just now come in and add that pigment. This is a yellow ochre pigment. I can add that pigment. Now I can either put a paper down and press that in, or just go directly in with the roller. I quite like using the roller because I can use anything that I pick up on the roller. I can, you know, I can put it elsewhere. It's just a lovely way of just dotting that colour around, just keeping that moving, not disturbing the green, not painting over too much stuff, just keeping it very light. As I said, you know, it's just really balanced in my hand, and It's nice how the white in the buttercups has also started to spread a little. I might just roll a little colour on the edge of that there. Come down here with it. Maybe come up there with it. When you know what's on your roller, you become a little bit more confident, but at the beginning, just tread very gently. You can just end up with blobs everywhere with this. So just, especially when the paint is quite juicy, but it's quite nice to have that reflected colour in places. Just to give you an idea anyway of how to build up these wild flowers. So I might put in a tiny touch of cornflower blue, which would be the vetch, or it could be the campion, because we've got the magenta. So I'm just using a Winsor & Newton magenta. And I tend to use a different palette knife for each colour that I'm using. I'll show you down here. So I've got an orange palette knife and a green palette knife, and then I'll have a magenta palette knife. So I can keep my colours, you know, as I want to mix them, quite easily available. So mix up that magenta. We know that that Ragged Robin was quite a strong colour, so I had a lot of the pink in. It's just sitting outside my studio there, smiling at me. Hi, Campion. So this one I might use a little brush for, because it's quite a strong colour, and the form of these things, they tend to grow upwards. So I probably want a stem of some sort. And then I might choose to literally do how it grows on there. As I say, these are a really bright flower, so you can decide on how much of this in your painting you need, if you need it at all. But I wanted to show you another thing with that. Sometimes at the base it's a bit darker, just add a tiny bit more purer colour at the base of this, and then kind of get more. Adventurous as I get to the top of the plant. Well, a little bit lighter, I should say. It's just one way of looking at it. I could do it as a total abstract and not worry too much about thinking about actual flowers, but thinking more or less about the feeling of the feeling that they give next to the yellow. I'm just going to get in there with a palette knife and might strengthen these up a bit, you see. Sometimes a little bit isn't enough. There need more of it to make it more believable. And you know, if it's just too minuscule, it just looks like it was an accident. And now I'm just sort of blending some of the yellow and the pigment into that pink, and it's creating a lovely transitional color rather than just the bright pink on its own. Almost looks like foxgloves. It's a good technique for foxgloves when they come out. We haven't got them yet, but They will be out soon. Now, because we've got this going all the way up here, you know, we don't want to forget about the fact that, you know, we need to take it right up into that skyline. Okay. So very often, you know, you see these sort of tendencies to put things down sort of low, but actually, you know, we can come right up, particularly since I was on the ground, so looking up. So I'm going to bring these, and again, you know, we've got this green coming through, so I'm not obliterating the green. So yeah, bring that pink right up into the sky. That makes that so much more interesting when you can do that, because that's what sits there. Okay, that's the campion, and I might use you know, the scratchy tool perhaps to bring in a few of the stems. I'm not using the palette knife because the palette knife is too heavy, and I like this finer line. So that's looking great. Just bring some of these stems down. Dandelions have leaves as well, so I probably need to look at a few of those. But that has you know, sort of made some sense of them as a form by adding the scratchy tool. And let's get some green and put in just a few dandelion leaves. Just where I might want to pop them down just at the bottom. So it's a different green going on. That's often quite nice. If we remember, the shape of them was like that. So I can kind of think about the shape a little bit. Don't need it everywhere, but it's quite nice to have a few where the dandelions are. And also, if you wanted to cover something up, it's also a useful point to come back in with the green. Now to come back up and cover up some of that. Okay. The other thing I do is I also do come back in with the green, and I think partly because there's always green in plants, but you know, some of that pink, you see, I'll come back in with the green into some of that. So it's like things are overlapping, so you can have a sense of stems and branches or whatever coming over the pink as well as the pink itself. It kind of pushes some of the pink things back into the painting as well. So, you know, you work backwards and forwards on different spatial levels, so they're not just sitting out there like a sore thumb. Okay. And the scratches also help to tell you where you might want to do that as well. Okay, our wildflower meadow is coming along. Now we're going to add the white dandelions as our last thing for the day. So we take our stencil. We're going to think about this in different ways. With different stencils actually, because we've got the ones that are either positive, so we could paint these stencils themselves, roll these, and then use that as part of our painting. So we'll do one of those. Or I can do it with a brush. So I'm just going to paint the stencil. just pop it down somewhere. Can lift it up. And it's just a gentle shape. So I don't have to actually paint the thing. The green. Can come in and scratch that out a little. So it's there, but it's not so obvious that you've gone in and tried to paint a dandelion and then it went badly wrong, which used to happen to me all the time. Now the other way I do it is then I use the stencil as well. I enjoy doing that. So I'll get the brush. A bit more white paint, sorry. Go through so much white at this stage because there's a lot of different things to add in. Okay. So I can decide where I might like this. And say I wanted to overlap something. Say I wanted to overlap this yellow dandelion and that. And I've got a brush here that I've cut the end off. So that cutting off the end of the brush just softens that brush a little. It's like they have a Deerfoot stippler that you can use if you're a stencil artist. And, you know, I would just keep adding a few of these different, I've cut out different shapes as well. So some are not quite as, they're quite nice to put the dandelions higher up actually. They're all in different stages of falling apart, or going to seed, I should say. And again, you might want to make sure that they have a stem. So it makes sense of that. Might do one where I leave the green in the middle. So just do the outside. I've just left that green there in the center. So you can paint them in different ways. You know, change the color slightly too. You know, sometimes I might do a green one, particularly, you know, or a bluish one, particularly if it's in the shade. You know, you don't want to, you know, have something, you know, too obvious. But what I have found is they're all roughly the same size. I've gone around and measured them and picked them, and there's not much difference in size in the seed head, so that's quite useful. I mean, you could paint alliums the same way if you were doing your own cottage garden. That's you know, that's quite nice too. But you know, you can just paint different parts of the stencil. You don't have to paint the whole stencil. You know, just give some little indications of, you know, these little flowers. So excellent. Well, I think that's good now. I'll have a look at your questions just quickly before I go. And do you think good quality soft pastels as Sennelier are a good substitute for pan pastel? Yes, good pastels are great. But pastel has a different binder to pan. the soft pastels have a different binder to what they use in Pan Pastel. So I would recommend probably using something that has quite a good and strong color. Otherwise, the color isn't strong enough in the compressed pastel. You'll just find it's a little bit chalky. That's all. That would be my only comment with that. Any other questions before we head off? You're prepared to try it? Hey, super, super. Okay, well, thank you for joining me on a Sunday. I know it's very strange to be here on a Sunday. Very strange not to be singing, but it appears that we're not going to be allowed to sing for some while yet, which is very unfortunate. But anyway, not to worry. I will send you a message about the Zoom sort of a basic session for Zoom, so that we can go step by step, do it together, and maybe paint our own little, wildflower painting, which will be really a lot of fun. And any questions, just fire them here and I'll answer them at the end. If not, thank you for joining me. It's Nikki Heenan Artist. See you later. Thank you. Bye.